Welcome to the True Joy Revolution. I'm your host, Katerina Kormas, confidence, clarity, and mindset coach for new and aspiring entrepreneurs. This podcast is for women ready to leave 9 to 5 behind and become the CEO of their own life and business. Each week, I'll be bringing you inspiring conversations with successful entrepreneurs who share their expert mindset and business secrets to help you cut through the overwhelm and take the steps to become the entrepreneur you were meant to be. This is where you connect to the life and business that is perfect for you and embark on the adventure that you were born to take. This is where the True Joy Revolution begins. Are you ready? Let's go. Hi, y'all. Welcome to the True Joy Revolution podcast. I am so excited to introduce you to today's guest, Autumn Roadruck. She is the host of the Startup Success podcast, which is an amazing podcast. I love it. I suggest you go check it out because you will learn so much from it. So, Autumn, welcome. So glad that you're here today.
Hello. Oh, I get all the feels. It's so different being on the other side versus like hosting versus being a guest. So this is going to be fun. I can tell.
Yeah, a little bit more laid back when you're on that side.
Right, a little bit.
Yeah.
The pressure's still on. As a guest, the pressure is still on. Don't doubt.
Of course. But I'm sure you'll do great. I'm sure you have lots to share with us. So tell us a little bit about you, about your journey, and how you started your podcast.
Sure. So, just in 100% transparency, I used to be an online personal trainer. Before that, I did a little bit of business coaching. I feel like I've done just a little bit of everything. Me and my husband, we own a martial arts school. So I very much like I understand the service-based industry and marketing online and all that other stuff. And I just found myself having such a wealth of knowledge. But in 100% transparency, I think I had started like 13 businesses in 5 years. And what I mean by that is I tried MLM businesses. I tried in real life personal training. I tried online personal training. I did, running my husband's martial arts school, but it's not really mine, or I guess I don't have a passion for it like he has a passion for it. So there was always a mismatch or a misalignment in it. So I would like come and go, kind of doing office managerial work and advertising and marketing. And it pretty much boiled down to I had so much knowledge about the online industry and how to grow a business. I just needed some sort of an outlet. And I also knew of other people who had helped me along on my journey who really also need to get their message out there because they really do amazing things. And when you are first starting your business, no matter what industry you're in, whether it's service, whether it's coaching, whether it's brick and mortar, whether it's, you're a yogi, you're a crafter on Etsy, whatever that is, you need to define your success first. But then it's also, there's so many different ways to get on top of that mountain of success or whatever you define it as, whether it's money or a feeling or the freedom, whatever that is, there's so many different ways and trails and paths. And I just want people to realize that there's no one path that's going to get you there. There's going to be things that you're going to need to try, go down different trails, whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, it really is about getting on top of the mountain. And there's just, there's just so many different ways, so many different things that you can do. It can be overwhelming. But I just really wanted to start that podcast to share with people the knowledge that's out there.
I love that. You bring up so many good points, because a lot of people actually don't start because they don't exactly know what they want to do. And they have so many things. So they just kind of get paralyzed and they actually don't, as opposed to try different things, just step into it and then you'll learn and you'll figure out what's best for you. Like you did, you tried a little bit this. Oh, I kind of like pieces of that, but maybe not that. Oh, I like this. And then it kind of fell right where you belong, which is with podcasting. But it's paralyzing for people to think I need to choose and I need to use it now and it has to be the right thing and it has to be perfect. Mm-hmm. And so then they don't take the steps to build the business of their dreams.
Mm-hmm. So right now, a lot of what I'm finding in the industry too is that the industry is kind of telling us what success looks like too. So a lot of times, you'll be scrolling through Facebook or you'll be scrolling through Instagram and you'll opt into somebody's funnel, the freebie that catches you, but it's like how to get 10K followers on Instagram, or how to have your first 10K month, or how to have a 6-figure business or 7-figure business. And those are all things where other people are defining our success versus what does success actually look to you.
Oh my gosh, that's so true. I didn't look at it that way. I always looked at it as, oh, another person thinking I need to make $10,000 and they're going to make it seem like it's so easy to do. But you're right. You get stuck into, how to get 10,000 followers. 10,000 followers must be so important. But what they don't tell you is that 10,000 followers is never going to make you happy if they're not 10,000 people that love you and want to work with you, and you're a client and you're going to be excited to work with them. Or, $10,000 months are great, but if you don't love your business, money can't solve the problem.
Right. Right. And then you're bombarded with the fact of, there's these people who do have really big followings who are saying, oh, it's not about the number. It's not about the number. Don't worry about the number of followers, or don't worry about, hitting 10K months. Like maybe a success to you is just a 2K month, but like, hey, I can help you get there, So it's an ebb and a flow, and it goes back and forth. And to go back to what I said earlier, it really is about what is your definition of success.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't think many people ask themselves that. We're not taught to ask ourselves what the definition is. Because as you said, it's been defined, even when we grew up, it's defined by what our parents said success was, what our teachers said success was. Like you have to graduate high school, you have to go to college. Like those are successful things. But it doesn't always lead to happiness. It doesn't always lead to fulfilled life. It's followed somebody else's path or beliefs.
Right. But then it's also crazy because the American mindset of like you said, going to college and buying a house is after a while, you want a bigger house. Like you start to make more money. So you're like, oh, I need a faster car. I need a bigger house. I need, a dog. And then when I have one dog, then all of a sudden I may want 3 dogs, or I want a show dog, or, it's just, it's a mountain that you always keep climbing until you decide where the top is.
Yeah. The want more. I'm just going to be happy when I get this. Oh, wait, I'm going to be happy when I get this. But you know what? It's that kind of mentality is good when you're going to, I want to grow and learn more about myself. And you push that mountain of challenging yourself. But the wanting of the actual tangible things doesn't really make you grow, doesn't really give you anything in the in-depth kind of feeling or fulfillment. But it's when you're striving for, I want to be better than I was yesterday. I want to learn more. I want to do more. That's success, like when it goes inward as opposed to outward.
Right. Yeah. Right. Definitely.
Yeah. So tell us about your podcast and how it all came about. What I love about what you do with your podcast, along the way, you've really shared every step. So it wasn't even just about putting out the episodes. It's been sharing the process of it. It's been sharing, I think you did like a 60-day and a 90-day report. How it's making money, how many people are listening, like what you learned from it. Like that, I think we don't do enough in the industry of growing an online business or a podcast or anything, of sharing the process. What you see online is like the highlight reel, like I'm doing great, I'm looking at all my success, but nobody's sharing that there's a long runway to whatever success looks like for you, whatever that is. There's still a long runway because it's a learning curve. So share about like when you thought of this podcast, what was your mission and what were you hoping people were going to get out of it?
So I started the podcast to really download all of the business information that I have, as well as highlight the other people. But then I also made it a point to make it extremely transparent in how the podcast is growing and how I'm defining my success of the podcast and really highlighting the highs and the lows. And I decided to do it from day one for a couple different reasons. The first reason is because in the podcast industry, people only tell you the good things when they hit the highs. Like, oh, I hit 10,000 downloads, or oh, I got, Fabletics to come, sponsor an episode of my podcast or something like that. And, when you ask those people, they're like, oh, it took years, which is fine. But like, what else did you, like, what was the process to get you there? Like, what did that look like? And, a lot of times they're like, oh, it's consistency, it's this, it's that. But then I was just like, from day one, I was like, I'm going to document everything. Like the good, the bad, the ugly, the successful, the not so successful, because podcasting is still very much foggy, especially when it comes to monetizing, getting listeners, making money, all that other stuff, versus like a blog. You're like, oh, I'm going to start a blog and then I'll have a Pinterest strategy, or, oh, I'm going to grow my Instagram and then I'm going to, start monetizing with ad space and endorsement deals and all this other stuff, or, influencer status. But there isn't a whole lot of that in the podcast world. So I was like, okay, from day one, we're doing it, like 30, 60, 90 days, so many months into podcasting. So like every month we're measuring and seeing like what's happening, what's working, what's not working, all that jazz. And then the second reason I did it is because a lot of people do some sort of an income report, traffic report with their blogs, but I was like, I want to do this for podcasting.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want to show people what it's really like to grow a podcast from zero, and to really start growing your personal brand essentially from zero.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're right. Podcasting is kind of still a new medium. Even for me, I never dreamed of starting a podcast. So I joined a mastermind and everybody was doing a podcast. And I was like, and I had an idea in my head for like an online magazine. I'm like, I wonder if I can do that as a podcast. And I did it, but it wasn't until I really listened to yours that I realized, like, first, how long it does take, that runway, because everybody else, as you said, they either don't share those smaller numbers and they wait like a year before they're like, hey, I hit my big number. I didn't know. Like for me, and I had different goals for mine, but I had no idea about getting sponsors for it. It's just not something I thought of. I just thought of it as another type of blog kind of experience, like sharing the message. For me, it was sharing entrepreneurial journeys and how they developed and how they grew to their success. But yeah, I mean, it's not shared very often. And for aspiring entrepreneurs and even new entrepreneurs, that's the information I wish I had when I started, but I didn't, right? I was just looking at everybody that was already a success. And so I was starting a blog and I'm like, oh my gosh, she has like 10,000 blog posts already. And I have like 2. And, like, that's like, oh, but she didn't share her, gosh, it took 10 years to get 10,000, 10,000. And she had guest bloggers. Like those kind of things are what we all need to be transparent about.
Yeah, for sure. And, like a super popular thing in the industry is also like, sharing like these, like you said, these bigger successes, but after years and years and years of work. So I was like, from day one, we're sharing everything. And there are some things I will tell you on the income and traffic reports and stuff like that I don't necessarily share. So like, for example, like right now, I have a opportunity to go to Vegas for an event, which the event is already like taken care of. Like we're going to be sponsors of this event. But then also, I approached a hotel, which was like on my Dream 100 list, which by the way, we'll talk about that here in a minute. And so it was like kind of down because they said no at first. And then the person who was hosting this event in Vegas called the hotel and was like, look, you got to get this girl in. Like she's going to be at this event. Like it's going to be really good for you guys. So the event itself, in theory, got this block of hotel rooms for a bunch of different people for free. But then, it ended up trickling down to me, which was really, really cool. So like now when I go to Vegas, all I need to pay for is like my flight and my food. Wow. because of this podcast. But those are numbers that I can't necessarily share because it's what's the actual value versus perceived value, and it gets a little murky in there. But yeah,
But it's a
like,
win that you can share. Again, that other people
right,
probably wouldn't have thought of as a possibility with podcasting, right?
right,
Or even anything with blogging, with anything that's it's information that people don't have. It doesn't not even about the money. It's that this can happen. And
right,
it's a dream of
like
yours too
like
to
that.
make it happen.
What's also really cool is just I love podcasting because of the connections that you make.
Mhm.
Because a lot of the time when like you're guest blogging or when you take over somebody's Instagram or something like that, it's a very short relationship versus having a longer conversation on the podcast, which if I didn't have this longer conversation on the podcast as I was interviewing this individual, this whole Vegas trip would never have happened.
Right.
So podcasting is amazing for networking.
Well, and it's, let's be honest, it's fun getting to know other people that aren't in your necessarily your niche, that that you have things in common, because you do, right? I mean, you're interviewing them because y'all are growing entrepreneurs, um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I love to do the interviews. That's my favorite part. I just love meeting people and talking to them and getting to know their stories. And that's what people are listening to. They're not just listening for the information. They then get to meet, even through listening, somebody else and getting to know like more vulnerable, more them personally on a
Mm-hmm.
more intimate level than as
Yeah.
just like a blog or taking over Instagram for a few hours.
Right. Right. I don't know. I kind of fell in love with podcasting. Like at first I was just like, I'm just going to record a bunch of stuff. I'm just going to put it out there, kind of see what happens. But then I was like, after interviewing a couple of people, I was like, no, like I want this to be like my thing. Like where I'm going to like plant my flag, I guess, or choose my niche or whatever the case may be. But then I just also feel like with people in podcasting, they get so hung up on the tech. Like you go into groups and they're talking about microphones and sound quality and intros and outros and just what editing software do you use and all the other stuff. And the reality is it is not that complicated.
No, I didn't even buy the fancy, like I have the blue snowball because I didn't buy the Yeti. I use my laptop. I use Zoom. I share the videos of the interviews on my website, and then I use iMovie to edit this everything because I can't figure out Audacity because it's just looks funny and it's complex to me. But I use iMovie to edit it all, and it works fine.
And a little myth or misnomer is you always see that Yeti microphone and like a ton of like really cool stock images and stuff like that. Doesn't have great sound quality.
I've heard so many people say they bought it and it picks up like every single noise possible. And yeah, they said I know people that it's still in the box.
Yeah.
It's still in the box. I
Like
use actually the best ones that I got, and I don't know why. I'm trying the Blue Snowball. I used my iPhone headphones, and
mhm,
they actually probably work better than the Blue Snowball.
yeah. Yeah. It doesn't even no. Sound quality is great on some level, but it's not everything.
It's not, and it also depends, like when somebody's listening, I mean, they're listening on all kinds of different technology that just, if they don't have great headphones, it's not going to sound good anyway.
Mhm.
The iPhone doesn't always have the best sound when you're playing it back, so it really, it's never always going to be perfect, whether you use the fancy, what is it, the Heil microphone or the heel microphone, and
Or the one that like drops down and then you got like the little
with the boom.
thing and then the thing and then you're like, I have all the things, guys. Don't I sound great?
It won't make your podcast better just because
Right.
you have a fancy microphone.
Right.
Well, that's a good point, though, because I remember even me thinking I had to have everything in place before I became an entrepreneur. And
Mm,
it took me years to start because I'm like, I had to have the perfect website and I couldn't afford somebody to do my branding photos. So how was I? And like, I didn't have somebody to do my website. So I was like basically paralyzed. But that's not what being an entrepreneur is all about. It's the impact you want to make and the message. And most people are
Exactly.
not judging you because your website's not perfect. They're looking for information. And if you have it, they love you. If you don't have it, they're moving on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So in my like income and engagement reports, like you will never see web design or brand photography or anything. Like I have an Instagram husband, like in 100% honesty, I have an Instagram husband. I have, like just me making a mood board on Canva from a template that I bought on Creative Market, where I like picked out a couple cool colors. I went to Fiverr for my artwork for the podcast, which kind of inspired the entire brand.
Yep.
It just, I just let it happen. I'm always just taking imperfect action, as I say.
Yeah.
I hit the publish button. If I'm thinking twice about hitting the publishing button or the submit button, I do it even quicker.
Yep.
I'm just like, done. Stop editing. Don't touch it. Do it. So, yeah, and that's how I've just been able to move forward and propel. And again, I haven't gone viral. Don't necessarily want to go viral. But I'm taking the steps every day.
Yep. That's what it's about. I call it the try and tweak method, because the only way you're going to learn and know what's right for you or what's not right for you is just to take action. Everything I put out now is so imperfect because I know I'm probably going to change it in like 3 months. I'm probably going to tweak it because it probably wasn't perfect, but I didn't know what perfect was anyway. So try it and then tweak it and then try it and either scrap it or tweak it. And nobody's judging you. Nobody's going to remember that it didn't work. Nobody's going to know if your podcast, nobody listened to the first 3 episodes. Nobody's going to know if nobody joined your course, because how would they going to know unless you shared it? It doesn't matter if it doesn't mean the course was bad. It just means you didn't get to the right people. So,
right.
Yeah.
Right.
And absolutely. I love that you share all this stuff too. I mean,
yeah, it's hard, but at the same time, if I ever wanted to be a coach, I'm like, this is literally the stuff I would want people to share with me. So I have to share it. Like I have to put it out there, whether it's, a bad podcast episode, whether it's a guest that didn't quite align like I thought it was going to, but I edited the podcast and popped it up there anyways. I mean, it's not going to be perfect, and it's not, I mean, I am no Pat Flynn by any means, so.
Who's Pat Flynn?
Oh, no. Okay. Pat Flynn was essentially the guy who started the whole podcast movement. And he's like the Donald Trump of the podcast world, I would say. You know what I mean? Like you get his rubber seal, you're in.
Yep. Gotcha.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Got it. Well, I see you learned something new today. I had no idea.
But for the record, he started in like 2012 when podcasting was like in its infancy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's something to be said for people who get in right at the beginning.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But it also goes to show that even if you didn't get in at the very beginning, you can still have success.
Oh, there's so many podcasts right now that only started a year or 2 ago that are huge now.
But also I find that a lot of the bigger podcasts that like get on the new and noteworthy list or that, make the tops of charts have also been people who have had successes in other areas of social media or building their personal brand.
Yeah. Writing the books.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's all a journey. So even if you like, for example, when I launched my podcast, I did not get on New and Noteworthy, and I'm about to time out of New and Noteworthy here in like a week. But it's okay, moving on. Keep growing, keep doing, keep making it happen. And just so you guys know, if you ever want to be on a podcast, specifically launching your podcast and being on the New and Noteworthy list, you have to have about 500 downloads in your first few episodes, or you have to have a certain amount of reviews in a certain amount of time. To be on the New and Noteworthy list, you have to be in your first 12 weeks of podcasting or launching your podcast. So after 12 weeks, you timed out, there's no possible way you could get into that category. So if you want to top the chart somewhere else in your industry or in your niche for your podcast, you're going to have to, get more downloads. But to be a new noteworthy, you should shoot for about 500 downloads and a good chunk. I would say at least probably 50 reviews of your podcast.
No pressure there.
That certain amount of time, yeah.
Which is why those people that tend to be on new and noteworthy are the ones that have written the really successful books, have the big followers, because they can push to get the reviews. They launch their podcast. Everybody wants to listen to it because it's them. That's how they get on it. But I think this all goes back to your point in the beginning, is that it depends what your definition of success is with your podcast or with anything in your world, like whether it's writing a book or, becoming a coach or whatever, becoming a yoga instructor. It depends on what that was never a goal to be on new and noteworthy for me. Because that's not my mission for my podcast. My podcast is about sharing my message for whoever needs it, mostly my people. And then anybody else that I reach with it through like Instagram or Pinterest or wherever in the world. But I didn't even know about new and noteworthy, to be honest, because mostly I listen to ones that people suggest I should listen to.
Okay.
Search. So again, it goes back to, what is your goal when we're a goal in your definition of success.
Mm-hmm. Yep, for sure.
And if you get on that one new and noteworthy, you can always get onto the top list of podcasts.
Exactly. Yep. One of my coaching friends, Sarah Dan, she actually just launched her podcast. She got on New and Noteworthy.
Oh, wow.
Awesome. But she did have a large tribe of women in a Facebook group prior to launching her podcast. And to make the whole deal even sweeter, she was very upfront, like, hey, I'm launching a podcast in a couple weeks. She asked her community in that Facebook group for help, whether it was, what microphone do you suggest? How long does it take to get approved through iTunes? So no matter if you were like brand new to the group or you've been a veteran for years in that Facebook group, you knew that there was a podcast that was coming. Mm-hmm. And then finally, when it ended up launching, she was just like, hey, I know you guys all love my courses. Go write a review and I will send you $100 off coupon to any of my coaching services or any of my courses. I
love that. That's an incentive.
So it was an incentive, and they were like, oh my gosh, the perceived value is my review to her means $100. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm going to drop everything I'm doing. And even if I never use that $100 coupon, I'm still going to go review her podcast because she's a totally cool person.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I love that. That's a great marketing strategy.
Yeah. I'm all about those too. I'm all about those. I'm always following people, and I'm like, oh, I see the strategy. I see what they're doing here. I know it's coming, so that way, no matter, like I said, no matter if they were new to the group or old to the group, they knew something was happening, something was coming, and you got to keep building up that.
Yeah. The suspense of it, the excitement.
Right.
Of it. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Keep sharing. And you have to share over and over, because half the people aren't going to see the first post you did about it. So you got to keep talking about it, because so more and more people see it, as opposed to, like Instagram, you post once, only 6% of the people are going to see it.
They just did a huge algorithm thing on Instagram too, which I do not understand algorithms in the slightest. All I know is if you want to be successful on any social media, be social.
Mm-hmm.
Actually connect with people, comment, leave relevant stuff, go like photos, go, DM people. I hate when I see these things about oh, go DM 10 people today and then go do this. And it's always certain numbers.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you gotta go.
You gotta play the game. It's horrible. Right. I hate it. It drives me crazy that we were talking about one of your podcast episodes about Gary V's 180 strategy. And it's you have to post, give your 2 cents. What is it? 9 hashtags? So
it's
follow 9 hashtags.
It's 10 hashtags.
10 hashtags, 9. You have to comment 9 times. Yeah.
Okay. So here's what you do. You comment 9 times on 10 different hashtags, and you got to go give your 2 cents to equal this 180. So you're essentially leaving 90 comments on relevant hashtags to your industry.
every
and
day.
every day. And by the way, if you listen to my podcast about it, it took hours every day. So what I would do is like in that whole process, and I think I even said this on my podcast, I would like try to do it in sprints.
Yeah.
You know, just like, oh, the kids are bouncing on the trampoline. Let me just log into Facebook. They're going to be good for 20 minutes. Let me just go leave some comments and then like kind of like let it breathe. But after a while, you really kind of start to become that person that's like sending good vibes your way. This looks amazing. Good for you. Like just very, very basic comments just because your brain gets toasted. You get crispy around the edges.
Yeah. Well, and I
But
think, you know, businesses.
yeah, go be social and social.
Yeah. So, I mean, businesses change so much. It's not they put an ad in the yellow pages days anymore. It's literally the way Facebook and Instagram and even Pinterest work is you have to be on, they want you on them all the time. Like, so no longer have lives.
Right.
You need to be on there constantly commenting and liking and building those relationships back and forth. It's not just one way. You want them following you back and you want them engaging. And it's time consuming. I found that I do a little bit in the morning. I use Tailwind for Pinterest. Like I'll sit there for like an hour on Sunday and schedule out a full week of pins to go on Tailwind because timing matters. And then I spend most of my time on Facebook and Instagram just randomly commenting, following accounts that have my ideal client in them, and then finding people. And then I save their photos in my collections. So I remember to go back and comment again on those accounts.
Yes, that's a great strategy. I essentially do the same thing. I also go into smaller niche hashtags. Okay, so like how I'm growing my podcast is really just through Instagram. I have no desire to be on Facebook. So while I'm on Instagram, because I can only speak for my experience on Instagram, is what I do is I go into smaller niche hashtags that I know that my ideal clients add, especially when they're first starting. And so I go in there and then I just comment on the recent photos.
Okay.
So I don't go like naturally Facebook is like, oh, here are the top performing, posts in this hashtag. And I'm like, no, I want the recent ones because the recents is where, people are still active at. Like they just post this. So like, I know somebody's at the other end, preferably within like the first like 20 minutes. So yeah, that's what I do. I go into those niche hashtags and then I comment, I follow, I like, and yeah, I find really cool people that way too.
Yeah.
Like people
you make for some great relationships that way.
Right. People for the podcast, people for, they're doing cool stuff. Like, let's see what that's all about.
Yeah, that's a good strategy. I didn't even think of the recent or the most important ones.
Yeah.
They're going to probably comment back because they just posted.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. So what would you tell aspiring entrepreneurs about, because it's daunting. It is, and most people, it's all about, quote unquote, selling. Like, how do I make what I want to do successful? And the myth is the old fashioned myth, right? Salespeople, you have to go sell yourself. But the digital world has changed everything. And like just talking about having to build relationships on Instagram and Facebook, it's not about selling. It's really about building it's like, I think of it as preschool, right? You learned how to play with anybody on the playground, right? You just made friends. That was it. And then they might have became lifelong friends, That's just what business has become. We've gone back to the old school playground method. I just want to play with you. You're really cool. I love your artwork. I love what you do, But what would you tell aspiring entrepreneurs starting out, whether it's starting a podcast, writing a book, starting a coaching business, whatever it is? What do you think are the big myths that they're holding on to, and what are your best tips for them?
So big myth is, you have to have a lot of likes, a lot of social, a lot of following, a lot of, you almost have to go viral to see success. And that's not true. You can make genuine connections and then leverage other people's audiences to not only grow your audience, but sell whatever you got to sell or whatever you're up to. And I think another big myth is, again, it doesn't have to be perfect. Just something is better than nothing. Because if you go listen to like some of my earlier podcasts, I'm terrible. I'm just gonna be honest. Like, they're terrible. There was a lot of editing in there. Okay. um, like, and then I think another big myth is you have to be everywhere all the time. So, I really only do podcasting and Instagram. I haven't thought about a Facebook group. I haven't been thinking about Facebook ads. There's just a bunch of things that are just not on my list that I'm not giving my time or energy to, because one, it doesn't align with what I want to do. And even though it may grow again, it may grow my podcast, it might grow my personal brand. Does that really align with me? And the answer is no, it doesn't. So I only do things that, move the needle forward and that align with the bigger idea, which is really just to be podcasting and on Instagram. Yeah.
That's good. So go with your gut. Go what feels best for you. And I think the other thing, being everywhere means you can't focus on everything well.
Right. Exactly. So I'm not worried about Instagram or, not Instagram. I'm not worried about a Facebook group. The wider you get, the more content you have to repurpose or
it's complicated.
It gets more complicated. And I call myself a stay-at-home mom, but the way that me and my husband's schedules work, I am a stay-at-home mom, but I'm not really a stay-at-home mom because it's just the way that our lives are. But I don't have time to be everywhere all the time. And I do use Tailwind to schedule all of my pins. I do that on a Sunday. I batch all of my content. I try to make it as super easy as I can for myself. So that way in the middle of the week, I really am working on the things that are taking me to the next level. They're growing my business. I'm not worried about what Instagram post I'm going to put today. I'm not worried about, my tail, pinning on Pinterest, because that's all stuff I know is it's done, it's taken care of. So yeah, it's a good time.
But it's easier. And I did it the wrong way. I want everything. And I'm trying to now, instead of starting here and growing, I went here and now I'm like, oh my gosh, I've got to just choose two. I can't be everywhere. Because honestly, repurposing your content is the most time consuming thing. If you do it on an Instagram live, oh my gosh, I have to share it on Facebook, and then I have to share my Facebook group, and should I make an IGTV out of it?
Right.
Nuts. And if you don't have an assistant, forget it.
Right. And I thankfully have a husband, but really all my husband does is coordinate my calendar and send out the Zoom links for anybody who wants to be on my podcast. Other than that, I pretty much do it all myself. So it's all, but I also have the systems and processes. So I know every day on a Wednesday, I'm sending out podcast interview requests. Specifically, I have a Calendly link on there. I have a Google form on there, so that way I can get all of your information before we even think about recording. To make sure you're a good fit, and I can make the social graphics and things like that. I know that every Sunday is when I batch my Instagram content, and when I make sure the photos are all lined up the way that I want them to in my grid to make sure that they're pretty, and that's when I do my pins for Tailwind. That's also another thing. So I take the time to batch a bunch of stuff and do a bunch of systems and processes. So that way when things like a podcast interview comes up, I can honestly say, oh, I'm free. I have a large chunk of time to do stuff,
Yep. The systems, and create simplicity. I mean, it's the only way to run your business. You can't make it complicated or you can't succeed because you're literally spinning. So
right. It's too much. And and the thing is, when you're spinning everything, you're not doing the things that are going to grow your business. You're almost at this plateau of maintenance versus growing. Yep. So you're working in your business versus working on your business.
Ooh, yes. Yeah. You're stuck in the admin work, the stuff
Hmm.
that doesn't matter, that's not going to bring you the money, not going to get you the attention, the visibility that you
Right.
need. Yeah.
Right. And I'm not saying that every time I post something or every time I'm like hustling last minute to make something happen, I really do ask myself, like, what is the long term game plan for me being like this right now? Is it I'm going to, monetize on this? Is it going to make my life a little bit easier in the future? How does this whole grand scheme fit into everything?
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a filtering system.
Yeah. But it's also a mindset too, because you could so easily be spinning all the time and doing all the things versus just like if you just focus, ooh, amazing things happen.
Yeah, it's true. It's true because you put all your energy into that one thing and all your heart and soul into it, and then
Hmm.
results. But if you're spread too thin and you're focusing on things that you're worrying about being important but aren't, you won't have enough left for focusing on what's really important.
Right. It's actually funny because I try to keep my Facebook strictly like personal. Like I really try hard not to like commingle or anything like that. So I have a 10-year class reunion coming up and everybody's just like, Autumn, like what are you doing? Like where are you at? Like what's happening? And I'm like, oh my gosh, you people know nothing. like, well, I have a podcast and I'm starting to do all these like really cool online business things. And they're like, oh, well, we thought you were still a personal trainer. And I'm like, oh my God, I haven't personal trained anybody in like 7 months. I offloaded a bunch of clients. Like I've so moved on in my
No, because you don't talk about it.
life.
Yeah.
Right, right. Which I don't know, there might be a mindset thing there about like me not sharing my podcast on my Facebook, but I really like there's so many friends and family on my Facebook. I just have no desire to start monetizing on that part.
It's funny. I have a tech coach, and she despises when people do it. When people sell on their personal Facebook page,
Hmm.
she can go. She's a soapbox about it. She's like, no, do not sell on your Facebook page, and don't go DMing your friends about what shake you're selling or whatever. Like that's just,
Hmm.
you got to draw the line. Like create a per business Facebook page and invite them to join the business Facebook page. But
Right.
you cross a line. I don't do it very often. I might share a podcast interview that I've done, a blog
Hmm.
post, or a Facebook Live that I've done, but I do it sparingly, like maybe
Right.
once a month. And I only, and everything else has to be just conversations with friends.
That's yeah. And that's the thing. Like if it's like an 80-20, like that's cool. But if you're mostly like selling, like
Mm,
I'm probably not going to be friends with you because
yeah. I don't want to watch it anymore.
but this is also what what the marketers and the marketplace has taught us is that we know that Facebook hasn't been doing very much with business pages or liked pages or anything like that. So where do people naturally go? Okay, well, let's hack the algorithm and let's go create a personal Facebook page and let's go friend a bunch of people and then they're going to see our stuff because we're selling stuff and then like we're really cool, so like they're going to come and talk to us.
Yeah, I mean, we all try to find the workarounds to the algorithms that are basically limiting our businesses. I hate, and I get it. They want to make money. So you have to pay to play, but even when you pay to play, you have to pay a lot of money to play in order for you to get the attention. That's
Right.
why building the relationships in those mediums are so important because
Mm-hmm.
they control the relationships you're building, but they can control when your stuff is being seen.
Right. Right. And yeah, like we know, I heard, I'm not 100% sure, but specifically with this one Instagram algorithm update, it's starting to be like Facebook where it's more pay to play.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want your stuff to be seen more, you're going to have to pay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Well, and that's why people, it's so hard to start a business thinking you need the 10,000 followers, because then you feel like you're set up to fail. how am I going to find people if people aren't seeing my stuff? But really, you get to control that by building the relationships. And yeah, knowing you have to pay to play kind of sucks when you're starting out. So, but you don't have to. You can use Pinterest. Pinterest is great for getting traffic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the algorithm, and the thing is, the algorithm's going to change. Give it another month.
Right. And like we all, I feel like, saw this coming, especially considering like Facebook and Instagram are owned by the same person. So it was an inevitability. We
Mhm.
knew it was going to happen. It just depended on when. I will tell you, I haven't done a podcast about this episode yet, but um, Pinterest is still the only social media site that doesn't want you to stay on Pinterest forever.
Yes, that's true. That's very
So,
true.
so when you're pinning things, like Pinterest measures your success by how many times people either pinned it or clicked out of it or even clicked to do like a close up of it. Like those are like the only few things that actually matter, which are all things that kind of take you off of Pinterest.
Yes, that's true. Like Facebook doesn't like when you have a link to an outside.
Right.
Won't show it
They
as much if you're clicking out of Facebook. You can share things in Facebook, but you can't. Yeah,
right.
they don't like the
Right.
links outside. But Pinterest is the one. Well, and Pinterest is more of a search engine than
Mhm.
social media, which is great because you're really not building relationships as much. Even the Pinterest following and unfollow, like following followers don't matter much.
Exactly.
It just matters
Exactly.
what you see, but it has nothing to do with your popularity or anything like that.
Right. And the cool part also about Pinterest is they don't do any sort of like crazy algorithm stuff. So you see old pins, you see new pins, you see like pins that haven't gotten a lot of traction, you see pins that do have a lot of traction on them. So they give you a whole smattering of things to go look at, which
Based
I
off of,
enjoy.
based off of what you search for.
Mm-hmm.
Search for it's keywords. That's it.
Right.
Easy. I can do easy.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, this was so much information. I'm sitting here going, what do we even title this podcast episode? Because it's so much about podcasting, so
Mm-hmm.
much about your journey, so much about digital marketing and the
Right.
social media world, so much about myths and limiting beliefs and what's really important. You gave it all.
I think what's really important is just to start. Is just plant your flag. And whenever you find that it's misaligned or it's not going the way that you want or whatever the case may be, like be brave enough to stop and just start again. Because if 13 businesses has taught me anything, it's that my business journey it's not a direct reflection of my self-value or my net worth or anything like that. It's just genuinely me like finding different friends on the playground, like, or what game do I want to play? Do I want to play arts and crafts over here or do I want to go on the slide over there? Like just like be brave, start, plant your flag, doesn't work, be brave enough to
Move it.
try something else.
Move your flag somewhere else.
Exactly. Exactly.
And it doesn't make you a failure. It doesn't define you in any way, shape, or form. It was a learning experience. You learn more about yourself and you're
Mhm.
ready to go and try something else. And you have all these tools that you can take to the new venture. And
Exactly. Exactly.
I
Oh,
love it. See, the most important thing is follow your heart, follow where your soul's taking you, follow where your passion's going. Do as long
hmm.
as you're having fun. Life's a journey, not a destination.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Tell us where we can find you.
Sure. So the two places that I'm at, which I feel like I made this abundantly clear, is you can check me out and my podcast, The Startup Success. We're on 5 different podcast players, but the best place is www.thestartupsuccess.com. That's where we archive everything, show notes, all that jazz, all the recordings, just everything is there. And of course, my Instagram, which you can check me out at Get Fit by Autumn, exactly how it sounds. I haven't changed it. I have no desire to change it. I think it's so cute. Get fit, whether we're getting fitness stuff, or which I don't do fitness stuff anymore. But it's my Instagram handle. I've had it for years. I can't go back now.
Yeah, it's your brand now.
It's my brand. Get Fit by Autumn. No matter if it's fitness or fitness entrepreneurship or podcasting, apparently. So
yes, see everything.
yeah. So those are the two places that you can check me out, is that website and my Instagram.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. I had so much fun chatting with you. I learned so much. Yeah. So thank you so much. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
For sure.
Hi, Joyful Lady. Thank you so much for listening to the True Joy Revolution podcast. I want to invite you to join the Joyful Business Society Facebook group. This is where you'll receive coaching, support, guidance, and friendships, all the things you need to live your best life and become the CEO of your life and business. You'll receive VIP access to trainings and new resources, and even discounts on courses and coaching. So pop over to Facebook and search for the Joyful Business Society and join today. I look forward to seeing you in there. And if you liked what you heard today, help us spread the message by leaving a review for other women to see and be encouraged to subscribe. Your reviews go a long way with helping this podcast be seen by those that are ready to live life their own way. So thank you so much for helping us spread the love and helping other women embark on their own True Joy revolutions. So thank you so much for being a part of the True Joy Revolution community. I really appreciate it, and I'll see y'all next time.